Christmas is in 3 days, which means I now have 3 days left to make my mom the custom leather handbag of her dreams for Christmas.
Now that I have all my pieces cut, I need to start preparing the bag to be dyed, which means punching our stitching holes. See these little holes that are all around my pattern? That's the leather equivalent of a seam allowance. I'm going to take this little tool called a wing divider and use it to draw a straight line on the edges of my leather where I'm going to sew it, so that I'm able to punch the holes in a straight line and they're not all wiggly all over the place. After practicing on some scrap leather, I did that to all the pieces of the bag where it's going to be sewn together. I'm going to begin punching the holes with this little thing, which is a stitching chisel. I line that up with the groove we just made with our wing divider and punch it into place. Yesterday I did some test patches for the dye that we're going to use so I could let it sit overnight. We have our black, our chocolate, and our dark brown. And that brown on the left is vintage gel. I wanted to see how the vintage gel would lay down over all three of these colors. The look I'm going for is mostly black with a little bit of brown peeking through. I wasn't really interested in dyeing the bag entirely one color. I found some examples of a leather dyeing technique that gives you a vintage antique look. I scrunched up some bits of muslin fabric and I did one piece of fabric per color so we're not overlapping. Dip it in the dye, dab off the excess on some fabric, gently tap it all over the piece of leather. I'm working from the outside in because I want it to be a little bit lighter in the center than it is on the outside edges. Then we go to our next darkest color and do the same thing. This is a very trust the process situation. It starts out looking quite crazy, but I'm working slowly to build up gentle layers, and I am still working on a piece of scrap leather. And after a little while, this is what we're looking like. Now, I'm already not mad at this. I was loving the texture that this was giving me. It was still definitely way too light, way too brown, and I knew that this vintage gel was going to give me what I want. Look how hot and sexy that top half is looking. This is after one pass with the vintage gel. Very dark, a lot of black with a little bit of brown peeking through. Now it's time to dye the actual bag. We're going to wet the leather down. Getting the leather wet before dyeing it allows the dye to spread a little bit more evenly, and it soaks in a little bit deeper. I liked that first test round so much that I really didn't change the process that much at all. I used the same colors, relatively the same technique. I pulled out the wool dauber and picked up some black to fill in these holes so they weren't sticking out with that light color. And I did end up using a bit more black to blend the brown with that black edge a little bit more. And I did that to all the leather pieces I'm going to use for this bag. There's still a lot to do, so stay tuned.